with Paul Daner, Mark Salafo. Kick off the weekend, all right. It's the Growler Friday show. It's Dey Light.
All right, welcome to the latest edition of Dey Light. Paul Daner Jr., Mark Salafo here with you on a beautiful Friday. Back from a couple of weeks where you got some kind of pre-recorded shows, but we're back in the live, topical. We're ready for it. We're back in it.
Yeah, it's exciting to be back, and we're still we're closer. We're closer to when things are really going to ramp up and we get fired up. It's still like another week or two of kind of the weird times, but I feel good. How was your vacation?
It was great. It was awesome. We enjoyed time at the lake. We went to Cedar Point. Many memories were made. There were sparklers. Everyone survived. Fish were caught. The water was cold. I might have to change some of my previous takes on lake versus ocean.
Just about to say it. You're probably regretting that you weren't at the ocean feeding your kids to the sharks.
Yeah, you know what? I was when I tried to get into the water, and there was actually a story about how the currents came down from the north right before we went there, and the water temperature actually dropped 20 degrees in the days leading up to and while we were there in Lake Michigan. So attempting to get into Lake Michigan, was a lot of good news, bad news. Okay, well, I got some bad news. The rocks are all along the front line here, so it kind of can hurt your feet when you walk down. But the good news is everything's numb. Can't feel it anyway. Doesn't matter. So it was a little tough, and I might have to walk back some of my previous takes because it was just a little too early and a little too cold in Lake Michigan to truly enjoy that part.
You know what? I hope we have a long season of this show of you walking back takes, which would mean that Dax Hill is having an incredible season and that we shouldn't have traded him, much like you suggested in a previous episode. But it's good that you're back. It's been a week and 2 weeks, I guess, for us.
Yeah,
I am now 20% stronger than the last time we talked. I've put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle.
I can tell it. You can see it.
Yeah. Very Burrow-esque offseason for me.
Yeah, no question. No. You know what? It's like he puts on 10 to 15 pounds, right? Everybody's like, "Ooh, look at Burrow." But what we get no respect when we put on 10 to 15 pounds in the offseason. No love for us in our routines.
Where's
Who
the
wants
respect?
to know my routine? Nobody does. We've got a fun show for you. We've got, of course, some of your questions. Always send in your questions to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. We'll get to a few of those that are piling up today. But you mentioned it's getting closer to the real thing. Mock turtle soup is so close. A week from Monday.
Wow.
Mock turtle soup shall be served at the Bengals media luncheon to kick off the season. The first training camp practice is a week from Wednesday. So we are dialing in right now. We are to the final moments of summer freedom and summer weirdness here on the show because there's going to be a lot of stuff to get into. But we've honestly got a lot to get into now. So we shouldn't waste too much time. We have. You want to know something?
I do. I always want to know something.
You want to know what flag is flying outside of my house right now?
Oh, yeah, the flag. What do we got today?
The Growler flag. That's right.
What?
Yes.
It finally happened?
Our friends at Flags USA here in Oakley made a Growler logo flag for me. God bless them. They are champions, and they know the way to my heart, and that is through the flagpole.
That's cool.
It was really cool. They made one, said, "Come on up, check it out." And now it currently on days that we record Dey Light, I am flying the Growler flag. It currently flies in all its glory on my front porch.
And we love all the Growl Pals, whether they send in flags or not. This would have been a great time for you to throw up a picture of the flag on the YouTube. You type it up and it's flying, and now, bam, let's see the picture of it. You're letting us down here. I do like, though, that they heard you talk about it and they came through with a flag. So I just want to put it out there that I would love a growler themed Tesla. If anybody's listening, flags. I like cars. So yeah. If you're listening and want to come through for me, I'll take that growler themed Tesla. I'll drive it on.
Just say it and maybe it happens. That's
put it out into the universe. That's awesome. I love that we got our growler flag.
Great. Shout out to Flags USA. Awesome. So newsy this week, I guess at the beginning of the week, was Joe Burrow making a rare podcast appearance on Pardon My Take. He said a lot of things, most of which you've probably seen or read about now. Did you like any of them? Were you like,
I did. I mean, that was my story of the week. Because here's my thing with it, right? Like it was, I'm sure you've listened to it. If you haven't, go check it out. We have got no podcast beef with the PMT folks. I was a little disappointed by a couple things, primarily that he lost his chess game. He lost the famous chess game. You didn't have to tell us that. Don't give us the truth. Tell us that you went overseas and you were just dropping everybody you met in chess. You don't have to admit that you started strong and lost the game. But when you hear an interview like that, is any part of you as a reporter jealous just to hear him chopping it up on a podcast for 40 minutes so laid back?
Yeah. I mean, he mentioned it himself that he doesn't do those things. So, and I think that's, the type of environment that everybody would love to sit down and chat with really anybody you cover, but obviously Burrow, because of the rarity of it happening, you'd love to be able to have something like that. But yeah, so a little bit, I think. Sure, you wish that was something that you were doing, but look, he's obviously very, very selective, and those guys, I mean, have done stuff with him for, like they said, since
forever, right?
Since the playoffs, since the national championship.
And I do like too that he kind of put to bed all the window talk. They brought up the whole window thing. He's like, "What do you want me to say? That we're going to be good for 2 years and then it's going to fall off a cliff." Like, yeah, you got to expect that you're going to be there. And I also liked him saying that he's going to give people something to think about or talk about this year. And he's right on that front too, of just like the narratives are what they are. He was out, so people aren't talking about him as much this offseason. You see people, analysts, and media figures putting out their top quarterback rankings, and to not even have Burrow in the top 5 is just crazy. It's infuriating as a fan to see that, and you're like, come on, what are we doing here? But I understand that too. Lamar Jackson had that rap of being a guy that can't last through the season until he did, and he was good, and now he still has the rap of not being able to do anything in the playoffs because he still hasn't. Those narratives change so fast. The Bengals couldn't win until they went to the Super Bowl, and Burrow's changed those in the past. So I'm excited to see how he comes through on this front. What else did you like from the PMT interview?
Well, I like to think I'm going to give him something to talking about. He's just a huge Bonnie Raitt fan. Like that's just loves Bonnie Raitt, wanted to kind of get that back, and it sort of like when wasn't it Jelly Roll brought back Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. I mean, was that what it was? Yeah.
Sure.
That's what I like to think. That's what Burrow was kind of going for there. But no, the thing that I really liked is this line, is that I'm starting to not really give a shit anymore, which I think is good. It's just very odd life. It became exhausting to keep as many things private as I wanted to. You know what's a game changer for anybody, I think, and it happens for people at different points in their life. Maybe some people it doesn't happen for at all. Maybe some people it happens at birth. The moment you stop giving a shit what other people are thinking, it's a game changer when you finally when you reach that sort of level. And I think that's really hard to do if you are in the public eye, like Joe Burrow is. And I think him saying that, I love that. I love that as much as anything that we've heard from him recently. I think that can be a freeing experience.
For a position that's so mental too. You don't want any of your headspace occupied with what are the takes going to be? What happens if I do this? Or, I got to keep this thing in my life private or project this sort of image. And you see guys that come across as sort of like phony. And, like more and more, the more you see about Joe Burrow, the more authentic you get a picture of Joe Burrow. He's a little bit of a weird guy, but he's also a smart guy, and he's, everything you would want in a franchise quarterback. He's not a guy that's throwing out crazy stuff that's getting you in trouble every week as an organization. He's not throwing out stuff that's careless and that sort of thing. He makes some odd choices with what he does care about. He's very big into the alien stuff, but I think that just adds to some of his mystique a little bit. I did like too that because he was talking about being 20% stronger, 10 to 15 pounds heavier muscle or whatever he's put on. And they asked him how many push-ups he could do, and he can't right now because he's not doing push-ups. Not that he can't, but he's not because of the wrist, which makes this maybe the last time in my life I can do more push-ups than Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Because, once he's healthy again, he's probably going to take me. But what age do you think that Joe Burrow probably eclipsed us in being able to do more push-ups than us?
Than us currently?
Well, no, just so we're both, around like 10, 12 years older than Burrow. So what age in Burrow's life do you think he could have taken us in push-ups? Because when he's 5 and we're like, 16, he couldn't have done more push-ups than us. We still had him.
I don't know. When you're even a little strong, when you're smaller, though, it's less body weight to have to move up and down. Like I feel like when he was 12, probably. Right?
I was going to say 14. I was going to give us a little bit more.
I'm in my mid-20s. I'm not living my best life. And he's 12. He's starting to get some muscle going. I feel like he probably could have done a lot. So I don't feel good.
You got that college 15. No, I think that you're right on, because when you're coming out of college, especially if you're in a media major, you're not in anything physical. So you put on that OU party weight. So that's going to make those push-ups tougher anyway. And he's, starting like freshman year, maybe like 14, I guess, would still make a little bit more sense to me. But yeah, 12, 13, he's probably stronger. And that is disappointing to think about. But we've got him now. We can take him in a push-up contest right now.
Today's the day. Yeah, today's our day. I had one thing I wanted to talk about. I have a story up today. It's the results from the Bengals fan survey, which we do every year. This is the 5th year that we have done it. And it ends up churning out a ton of interesting results that you guys all come in and give us these data points. And what I've liked it, originally it was like, oh, let's see what Bengals fans have to say about this or that. But now it's become this sort of milepost every year where we can judge the same questions and how you feel about the same questions every year and kind of see the progress and see the path. And it creates some really interesting views of the conscience of the fan base, if you will. And I wanted to start with one, and that's this one here. And it was, how confident are you the Bengals are moving in the right direction? And now this was, the vibes have been immaculate in previous years. It's just everybody's saying, give me the 5. I love it. It's the big number. I'm all about it. They're up in the 80s. 80% are just going all in. Everything's going the right direction. And this year, we saw almost a 50% drop in people putting the 5 number on it, and most of them shifting down to 4, with even more shifting with a rise in 3s. And it's not that things are going to go wrong. And this is ended up illustrated in a few different questions on the fan survey. It's that you're seeing that doubt creep in a little bit in people's heads that have followed this team of, I believed that everything is right. It can't go wrong. And that's understandable. That's part of winning, going to the Super Bowl, going to the NFC Championship game. This is the first year they're coming off of a failure season. But there was just a lot of spots of people starting to wonder, is it really going in the right direction? Or was that just a quick little 2-year peak that we've seen at years in their history when they went to the Super Bowl in the 80s twice? Both of those were kind of up and then quickly back down. You can go look at the 2005 season where things were so high and then it came back down. People are, there's a thought, okay, could this be the latest one? You thought it was different with Burrow, but it's just kind of interesting to see the results come back and see how many people are kind of shifting away from that definite, it's moving in the right direction idea.
I mean, it's a little bit crazy to me to go the drop in 5s to 4s. I can understand that after not going to the playoffs. They still won a lot of games without Joe Burrow, and with Joe Burrow being banged up for the start of last season. I don't get the drops to 3s. That feels a little extreme to me. When you have a franchise quarterback like Joe Burrow, the window's always open, all that stuff. We've seen in the NFL how some imperfect teams can make incredible runs because of the quarterback position. If you've got a strong quarterback, he can carry you through a lot. So I feel like he's going to push the franchise in the right direction just by himself in a lot of ways. And so, all right, so maybe you drop from a 5 to 4 because you're worried about health. I think maybe if you're worried about the Bengals moving in the right direction, the T. Higgins stuff might still be, confusing to some fans why they didn't get him secured maybe a year ago, or maybe you just think they should still extend T. Higgins. And maybe the safety snafu last year too. Letting Bates go, they paid the price for that. Maybe that makes you raise a few more questions. What else do you think would explain dropping from, a 5 or 4 to a 3, though? That still feels a little harsh.
This. I think, how concerned are you about Joe Burrow's career health? I think, that's real at the core of a lot of this. Well, one, you saw a big decrease in confidence in Duke Tobin, and Zach Taylor too, but even a little bit more so in Duke Tobin, because you have the dents. There's just these dents, right? In the image that was really Duke and Zach were the winners of the survey last year. Fans saw sustainability, not just one run to the Super Bowl. They saw the direction. Everything was working out. They had this great run despite losing to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And I think this year you had what happened with Dax Hill and Jesse Bates leaving, and watching Dax Hill as a first-round pick not be it. You have Myles Murphy not playing, despite as much stock as I'm buying in Myles Murphy. He didn't play a ton. You had free agents that really didn't work out. Whether you're talking about the Irv Smith plan, the Nick Scott plan, these things that went wrong last year, none of them as a whole are egregious. And there's still so much good happening that it's hard to view it that way, but they're all dense and they all leave a little bit of mark of confidence in that. Is this going to be another year where there's a few more dents, a few more things that hurt them? You see Lou Anarumo's defense, some of the shine come off of them a little bit. And that's a part of it. And then you have the Burrow injury. How can you say, if you're going to have 66% of people saying they're slightly concerned about Burrow's career health when you consider what's happened, that's in the back of the mind. It's something. Now, the question was slightly, they are starting to pile up, but I think he's handling it well. I think that's the proper answer here. How can you not be concerned by what you've seen? But I do think he's handling it well, a topic that we have tackled here a lot. So I won't go back into it too much, but I think that is the proper answer, but it is still concern. And we also have 20% saying they're concerned. They're starting to think that he's injury prone, going that direction. And so when you have
feels
that
a little crazy.
Yeah,
right? That much. I mean, he played for 2 full seasons pretty much,
correct.
He had 2 season-ending injuries. But, I mean, those 2 middle seasons, I don't know. If you were injury prone, I think he would have missed a lot more one-offs here or there, 2-3 games, that kind of thing. 20% feels high. But, yeah, I get what you're saying, though, with those 2 numbers combined, too.
Yeah, and I think the calf thing, like the fact that it was multiple injuries last year, I think that becomes part of the equation, and that's all fair. But I think that's where the dip in confidence that things are definitely going in the right direction comes from. All of those things kind of combine. At least that's what the data shows, is that this is where people are concerned. This is where their worries lie. And you saw the dip in Duke Tobin. You saw and as well in Zach Taylor. And so you see all of those things combine, and it means that there's just that creeping doubt that's right there. And I'll be really interested to see the answer to this question next year, the Burrow question, especially if there were to be another injury this year. And if there is, it's like anything. I mean, it's recency bias on so
Yeah.
much of this stuff. But that's part of the beauty of the fan survey being 5 years now, and you can compare so many of these questions and watch the ebbs and flows of how fans feel and see how quickly it can change, obviously, because we've seen that. But fans are still feel valued by the organization, which was a big deal in this survey. That was one that was down in the like single digits when we started doing it, and then rose all the way up into the 90s. And that was a huge thrust of the organization trying to change things. Fans, that hasn't moved. Like fans still, despite what happened on the field, fans still feel connected to the organization and that it's a big part of the fabric of the city. That's huge. That means it's not just about winning and losing for fans of this team, which was not the case before. They still need to win, don't get me wrong, but it's not as connected to winning and losing, I think, as it was in the past. And that's a sign of some good work that they've done.
Yeah, and maybe it's a sign of people psyched about the TVs that they're buying from the stadium. You know?
That's it.
They get to show up. They're like, hey, I've got a TV. I'm good. I got a nice
That's
deal
all you
on
need.
this. I had to show
That's
up
all
in
you
the
need.
parking
One
lot,
TV.
but yeah.
TV sales back. Can you believe it?
It's back.
You know, they got more. It's back Saturday. More fundraising to send the team to state. You know,
how many TVs do we have?
Oh, they must. There's just so many.
Do you know anybody that bought one? I don't know
No,
anyone.
but I know
Did
there was
any
a long
Grub
line.
House
Obviously,
go?
a lot of people did.
Man, if anybody wants to send us a TV, I guess now you know you're getting growler flags. If anybody wants to pass along a few TVs, we'll take those too.
I will not. I don't want them. I don't.
Oh, I'll
these.
take one.
No,
if it's big
I'm
enough.
saying I would like pictures of the line. I would like pictures of you and your strongmen waiting to carry your TV.
Your security detail.
Yeah, that Hamilton County is selling to you for $40 in cash. So all you people holding cash, make your way down there. Let's go.
I like that it's the cash only operation, and like you said, they're not even going to be like $2 or something great. Like it's just barely a giveaway. It's just they're $60 if you want a good one or whatever it was. I like that we're still selling TVs. It makes me think we're closer to selling urinals and just stripping everything out. Why aren't they selling parts of the field? You know, if they're replacing the playing surface, people would buy the field. You said that you would buy a strip.
My suggestion was, I think, if you're gonna have this long line of all these people, I think they should set up some lemonade stands along the line and sell some lemonade while you're at it. I mean, it's kind of maybe even car washes, right? I think you have a car wash at the beginning of it for everyone that's parking. They go through there on the way into the parking lot, set up a car wash in there, have lemonade stands, and then sell $40 TVs, and then off you go. I think that's all part of it.
How much do you think the average fan would pay for a cup of lemonade from Cam Taylor Britt? I bet you could get $5 a glass, at least.
I think you push it. I think you
little photo op, maybe it moves up to 10 a cup. You never know.
Sign the cup.
Oh, wow. Now we're talking.
Wow.
Sign the cup.
A signed lemonade cup.
Honestly, they should have players sign in the back of these TVs, really juice the value of these things. Absolutely. $60 for something you rip off a wall, but you slap a signature on there. Now we're talking 65 minimum. Minimum.
I love it. Well, shout out to everybody again. Send us any pictures of the line, any of your experiences if you go. We want to know more about this. The ridiculous TV situation, because we're just so excited by it. But before I think we got to move forward. We got to talk to our guy here. It's Stanyo time. Let's bring in our friend and yours, Eric Stanyo, realtor to the stars. I don't know. There's not stars, but I love the idea of it. What's going on, buddy?
Ooh, looking good, Mark. I like the hat.
Got the hat on.
Right.
Look at you go.
Go.
I have mine on display behind me. The Stanyo hats. Get your merch.
Yeah, we're doing good. It's good to see you guys. We're back from we had our week of vacation down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Did the thing, ate a lot of pancakes, hiked some mountains, saw some bears, and we all survived. It was great.
Saw some bears?
There were bears everywhere. Okay, like these are the black bears in Tennessee. They're right outside your window in the resorts now. They come down from the mountains and like sift through trash, and they're kind of like the guys working the property are like, yeah, just shake your keys at them and they'll go away. I'm like, I've got 5 kids. Like, I don't want them to be around bears, and I don't have keys in my swimsuit. Yeah, I don't know. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe we need to restack my list on vacation spots.
But yeah, we didn't mention bears last time. That's so true.
Yeah,
well, let's get right. Do you have a question? You have a question for me this week?
Hey, we're wrapping up the down period, the dead period here. We're getting
the weird times.
Camp. Yes, and I'm thinking, in real estate, there's seasonality to the real estate season. There's also seasonality to the NFL season. One season that lasts forever that the NFL is trying to take, but I know what it's like for as a fan to kind of plan that out. I'm curious what it's like as a journalist. I'm sure it's very different, and you would rank the best times of the year differently in different ways. But Paul, that's my question. What's kind of, in terms of your seasonality of covering the Bengals, what are the best times of the year for you?
Well, I mean, I think they're most exciting when you get into just January, really. Once you get through the holidays, because it's a lot. The end of the season, well, there's a lot going on. You're trying to do holiday stuff. And it's busy. It's just, there's a lot of, it's like everybody has a million commitments in December, and certainly it becomes a little stressful. So January is fun. Like, there's no question about it, especially if you prepare yourself, man. I was not quite mentally prepared enough in 2021 for what was going to happen. And so if you're not mentally prepared, it can be a little taxing. But if you're mentally prepared, January, I think, is the best, because you're through the holidays and you're focusing totally on football. Everybody's paying attention to it. The stories are interesting, assuming the Bengals are playing. So I think that is definitely the tops. I like September a lot. Like, I just think the excitement of the new season is really cool. I love kickoff events. I love the first couple trips of the year. Yeah. I love the excitement of a new season on the college, high school, pro level. So I'm I get chills every year when I go on opening day and we go into the booth with like Dan and Lapp and do the pregame show right before a kickoff of the opening day. Like, I get chills for that moment every single year. I love it.
There's less cynicism at that time.
Yeah, nothing's screwed up yet, but your cynicism's ready. Like, it's all holstered. I'm ready to fire it off. I like that a lot. Those are probably my top. Those are my top. I like the beginning and I like the end.
So. Well, also you get new storylines to cover, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen.
So important. So important. So much. And you have an off season of people saying BS to you, and it finally is all gone because you end up being whatever happens on the field, and you realize how much of it was just made up. You can't lie about the field. So I always enjoy the truth telling that happens once we actually get out there and start playing games.
Yeah, makes sense.
For real.
Cool.
Daniel, we got finally we had a Graupaus send in a run passer boot for you. So that's what we got for you this week. So awesome. For this one's from Mr. Stanio. He says you got a run passer boot the following homes: a 1-story ranch cul-de-sac home in the burbs, a mid-century Eichler modern home in the city, or a 1960s modular home on the beach. How do you run pass boot those three?
Okay. On how to buy these, I assume. So that's good question. Thank you for setting that in, Graupaus, to this segment. No, this is cool. So, okay. Three very different kind of houses. I would say the ranch in the suburbs is kind of like your meat and potatoes house. It's a solid house to go after. There's opportunity, and there's always going to be demand for that house. So we'll talk about that one. The modular beach one, I'm going to place that in a category of recreation / potential rental income, because if you're buying something on the beach, you might use it a few weeks a year, but then you could hire a property manager and rent it out the rest of the year. So I like that. The Eichler or any other mid-century modern, that's in a category of art and beauty and very expensive. So 3 different categories. So here's what I would say. I think, all right, I'm going to take you guys somewhere here real quick, but I think all of the best wisdom can mostly be found in children's stories and fairy tales and fables. So I'm going to go with the wisdom that we find in Jack and the Beanstalk.
Wow.
All right. Yep. All right. Stay with me. So you remember the story, and Jack was living in poverty, got the magic beans, climbed the stalk, found the giant's house. But in that story, he took 3 different things. He took gold coins, and then the golden hen or the golden goose that lays the golden eggs, not the golden goose, the goose that lays the golden eggs, and the harp, the golden harp. So these 3 homes, it's very important that you acquire these assets in a particular order, and that's the wisdom of this story. So number 1 is you got to get out of poverty. Okay, buy the ranch home. Buy the ranch home first. I'm running ranch home. Stop renting. Buy the ranch home. That thing is good forever. You can live in it till you die, and there's always demand because there's a bazillion boomers who are aging and want first floor living. So buy the ranch home first. And I could make an argument for running with the modular home if you're house hacking. If we're talking about buying an income producing asset, so the beach home, if you're renting it out, that's a income producing asset. That is the goose that lays the golden eggs. This is a very important thing. If you're doing real estate, this is a beautiful thing about real estate, is buying something that gives you more money. Okay. And then lastly, so people might want to jump to the Eichler and the beauty and the art, but you can't start with that. You have to end with that after you've reached some financial freedom. Then you can think about art and beauty and the $2 million mid-century modern house, but that has to be last. Don't do that first, people. That has to be last. There you go. Jack and the Beanstalk. There's your order.
Just the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, just so much nuance, so much beauty in the storytelling. I appreciate it. And if people want $1 million pieces of art, they can join the Stanyo Clanyo. Right?
There you go.
Come on down. Subscribe on YouTube at Team Stanyo, SZTANYO. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, somebody who is, email directly info@teamstanyo.com or go to teamstanyo.com to connect. Appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you next time.
Good to see you guys. Thanks.
Yep.
Have a good one.
All right.
I do like that he, if you went to your realtor and just everything was filtered through children's stories,
Yeah.
you can really tell that he's a dad. Like, I'm looking to buy a house. You're like, oh, well, this reminds me of a very hungry caterpillar. And he just breaks it down for you that way. Have you ever read Good Night Moon? Well, that's essential to our search here today.
Yeah, well, I'd like to show you some brochures from our company. The first one here is Redfish, Bluefish, just Dr. Seuss. So I will say this. We have a lot of questions to get to. Let's do some quick fire.
Okay,
Let's do
some quick fire.
A little bit of quick fire through some of the questions that people have, because we love when you send your questions. We want to make sure we get to them.
Shout out,
we don't want to
Pals.
sit here and drone on and on. So we're going to do it. Send your questions to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com, and we will do our best to get to as many as we can. What do we got this week?
This one is from Simi. Any concern about Amarius Mims still being unsigned at this point with training camp right around the corner?
Concern? No concern. Now it's weird because you've got only 5 unsigned first rounders left. You have the 2 Bears guys, Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. You have Minnesota. They have JJ McCarthy, and then Dallas Turner, who was picked 1 spot in front of the Bengals, and Amarius Mims. Miles Murphy was signed on May 12th last year. Dax Hill was signed on May 18th. So it's a little bit out of precedent. You wonder if the Dallas Turner at the spot right before Mims is potentially what's holding up them, for just making sure nothing goofy happens in the slot in front of them. But again, this is going to get done. Like the old days of Andre Smith holding out until the third preseason, like those days are gone, of him doing the workout videos in Alabama on Hard Knocks. Like none of that stuff is a real concern. I suspect that this will get done. It's just there's very little anyone can really do. It's just small bits in these contracts that get messed with. So no issue.
Yeah, it does seem like all the drama has been removed from that sort of thing that we had like a decade ago. Unless your dad is Deion Sanders, it feels pretty much like when you get drafted, you're locked in. You know, you're going where you're going.
We'll see.
Our next question, this is from Jason. Is Orlando Brown the starting left tackle for the duration of his contract? Or if Mims proves that he's clearly the best tackle on the team in a year or so, do you think the team would switch him over to the left side?
I mean, I think that's him being the starting left tackle for the Bengals is mostly about his performance, Orlando. I mean, I don't there's a couple of scenarios here where you're talking about if Mims just plays really, really well. Well, then why would you want to move him?
Keep him at right tackle.
The days of the left tackle being so much more valued than right are really gone. I mean, look in the division. You've got TJ Watt on the right tackle. You know, I mean, you've got Myles Garrett. There are dudes everywhere, and they're gonna find you if you're a weak spot. And Orlando Brown has made a big deal out of being a left tackle. That matters to him. It's part of his family and the lineage there. And in 2025, the Bengals can see a $14.7 million savings versus the cap and cash. They front loaded so much of that deal. They can get out of it if there's performance issues, but not really right now in terms of needing to move over. The idea of them swapping to get the better one on the blind side is not something that I think is real relevant or would necessarily happen. That doesn't mean that Mims wouldn't eventually take over as left tackle if Orlando Brown left or whatever happened. But for now, if those two are both here, it would be, to me, a surprise to see them have any interest in swapping the two on either side.
Especially when you're following the context of the question and you're talking Mims having one dominant rookie year, like that still seems too early to make that switch, even if it was going to happen down the line. I'm very much on board with keeping Orlando where he is, but it would seem lunacy to just have a killer rookie season from your first round.
Now let's change it.
Yeah, here's a new position, and now we got to get a different right tackle or switch Brown over and have him disgruntled and upset about that. Does not seem like the move to make. This next question is from another Mark. This is a quick one. Curious on Paul's thoughts if the Bengals will open themselves up for private equity bids. Since it's capped at 10%, maybe the family would still want to infuse some more cash into the organization.
I mean, this is not something that I've specifically asked them about. A lot of the developments there are new. We'll see. Maybe it'll come up at Mock Turtle Soup here in a little bit. But I can't imagine the family wanting to give any even false sense of power to somebody to come inside of their organization to give up 10% of their little honey hole there or even a view of the books. Like I just find that they're just so insular and that I just don't know that I see somebody else coming in and them wanting to bring somebody else in to even be a part of it, even just in a monetary stake like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they view it as an opportunity. Again, I haven't asked them about it, but my gut would say no on that.
I mean, the more and more guaranteed money you got to shell out in these contracts, maybe they will take a little bit of cash, take a little bit on the side. So we appreciate all the Growl Pals sending in their emails, and we're still kind of working our way through some of the ones that we got while you were gone, or just the weird off-season period. So if we missed over one of yours, you can always send us a shout out to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. This was one that came from your segment with Mo about the Square of Dishonor. And so this one, he does not have a name. Okay, well, he missed a big one. He thought that Odell Thurman should have been on your Square of Dishonor. And, he said that he would have been the answer at linebacker for a decade, but Bengals couldn't keep his head on straight. He was out of the league before you knew it. So Thurman was the name that he thought you guys missed with that segment. How do you respond to those allegations?
Odell Thurman was on my list. And we never got to him. I didn't think that he ranked quite as high as some of the others. Although as personal as we took it, I probably should have put him on there because a few years ago, this was maybe my last year at the Inquirer, I wanted to do a story on Odell Thurman. Like he had kind of briefly surfaced as maybe an assistant at the University of Georgia or something after kind of being off the map. And I was able to track him down and contact him. And he agreed to have us come down to Athens area and do a story on him. And at the time, it was myself and Sam Green, Bengals photographer. We were also doing a top 50 plays, or it was the 50th season, or we were doing best plays of the last 30 years or something. And we were doing something on Stanford Jennings, who lives in Atlanta. So we decided to combine them together. We drove down to Atlanta. We went to Stanford Jennings' house, and he was the nicest human being alive. His whole family was there because he had the kickoff return in the Super Bowl. The day after his daughter Kelsey was born. It was 30 years. She turned 30. It was kind of a cool thing to sit down with Stanford and his daughter and talk about that kind of moment over her birth weekend. And it was just a fun story. I really enjoyed it. They were amazing people. And Odell had said we had planned to go meet up with him the next day. So we drive down to Athens. It's about 45 minutes or an hour. And the night before, I had sent him a message to double check on, the place and exact time. No response. I was like, I'll get back to him in the morning. No response. We get down there. I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess we should go to the place we were supposed to meet up and assume he shows up. We're texting him then. No response. We sit there at that restaurant for about 2 hours, texting, no response. Can't find him. Text periodically throughout the day. Nope. He just ghosted us for multiple days. We were like, I guess we stay one more day and see if we can't get him to show up. And he totally ghosted us. And not until we were legitimately almost back in Cincinnati did we even get any kind of a response. And it had an excuse in there. And
Jeez.
I was kind of over it.
What was the excuse? Was it at least a clever excuse?
It mentioned it just kind of was like family stuff, whatever. But no response was really hey, I know stuff blew up on me. Literally nothing. We drove all the way from Cincinnati to try to do it. We were going to do this whole thing. And so from then on, I was like, it's a story I've always wanted to do. But I don't know that I have the ability to go back in there. And I think that maybe that kind of explains some of his football career. And I would love, I still would love to do the story if I knew that I could actually do it. But I don't know that I'm even now have taken enough of the scars off to
That'd be just a yearly trip where you get ghosted every year. You just go down to Athens and
that was a first.
You just keep. Yeah.
That was a first. I've never had somebody say, yeah, come down here, do an 8-10 hour drive. Come down.
Ghosting on travel is crazy. It's one thing if somebody blows off a phone call or something like that. But when you throw in hotels and
we're coming
lengthy car rides, that's crazy. And especially if we're talking square of dishonor, Mo's got his own, personal agenda that he was pursuing, trying to get his, what was it, like $300
Sam Adams.
check or
He's
something.
trying to get $350 from Sam Adams.
How much money did you guys spend on an extra day in Athens? The hotels and, some gas money, some entertainment in the day.
Yeah. The Inquirer expense people can take their beef up with Odell Thurman on that one. But
I could have definitely.
We got the Stanford Jennings story out of it. So that was good. All right. What else do we got? Do we have any
an ambush?
Any ambushing? Or we have any ambush light coming?
Ooh, this one's from Matthew. This is a Paul themed ambush light here. Run, pass, or boot the following. You sell all your flags and never fly another flag again as long as you live. Or you have to leave the press box during a Bengals game, run onto the field and get tased, or have a urinal installed in all of your bathrooms in the house. And no, you can't have Stanio sell your house and move to a urinal-free home.
Okay. Your favorite Brinks guy. Oh, I see this. This
is Matthew is the guy, the Brinks guy from an earlier episode. If you're a loyal Growl pal and have listened to all of them, and you know what, we'll take when you send in your emails to the Growler podcast. If you've got a weird job, we want to hear about it. We like that. We like hearing from weird places. We'll take weird jobs. We heard from a garbage man this week. Not a bad person, just a person that drives a garbage truck. But we'll take fun jobs.
Yeah. To answer this question, I'm booting getting tased. The only one here that inflicts physical harm on me is being tased and really jeopardizes my entire career and way to make a living and feed my family.
Leaving the press box is the big thing.
To
if this
go
was a red
run
tip,
on the field and get tased, I mean, that's pretty much a fireable offense and unhireable from this point forward. That's a tough scene for me. So I'm probably gonna boot that one. All right, I'll say after
if you just have like an Antonio Brown moment and just leave the press box and there he goes.
My
that's
shirt
also
off and throw it into the air. I mean,
that's
memorable.
not a short trip though either. You've got to leave to get all the way down to the field and get out on the field and get tased. This is not like a spur of the moment decision. This is going to take some time for you.
What is going through my head on that elevator ride down? Like, am I really going to do this? Is this really?
Wait for the
plan?
dings, and you're like, I'm going to throw my career away.
Yeah,
because I don't want to not fly my flags.
Yeah, it's the end times at that point. So I'll say, look, I'll put a urinal in my house. That's what I would do most. I don't want to sell all my flags. Like, if there's a urinal in my house, it's hidden. Nobody really knows about it, so I'm not really shamed. I'm like, I don't like it. But
not hidden. Urinal in all the bathrooms.
Flag flying. I want to keep my flag flying and put a urinal in the house. Whatever, that's fine.
Multiple urinals. It's in every bathroom, is what he said. So
I still don't like it. But it's fine. It's fine.
I thought you were going to boot the flags. Wow, I'm surprised that you kept the flags.
Boot the flags.
Just can't take.
You think I'd rather? Yeah, no. I'm not getting tased. That's number one.
So we'll take your ambush questions. Send them to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. We still haven't one last week of the weird off-season times when we'll still entertain some of the more offbeat questions before we go full newsy. And of course, we appreciate all the Growl pals that send in questions. Leave good reviews out there at whatever podcast listening service you use, whatever platform. Leave a good review for the Growler. That helps the show. Watch us on YouTube, subscribe, all that stuff. Send in your favorite themed flags to Paul. He enjoys those.
Where are you on the road next?
Oh, I've got to get into plugging my stand-up comedy career. Let's go. So I'm in Louisville on July 18th at Louisville Comedy Club. And then July 19th and 20th, I'm at Comedy Off Broadway in Lexington, Kentucky. The Kentucky tour continues. And I'll be with our guy, Josh Sneed, down there. And then July 26th and 27th, I'm doing Ohio Funny Bones. So the 26th, I'm in Toledo, a great city. And then on July 27th, I'm at the Dayton Funny Bone. And a local show in Cincinnati at someplace called Cafe Alma on August 6th. Don't know anything about that. I'll figure it out before the show.
I signed up for that.
Yeah. And then in the fall, the travel picks up. I'm going to Vegas at the end of September, then Michigan, Atlanta, Wisconsin, all of those places coming up this fall. So a lot going on.
You laughed at Toledo, and
I do.
I don't. You do. Why are you laughing at Toledo? The fine folks of Toledo.
It's a great city. If you live there, please come out to the comedy club with your friends and, buy some Mark Shalafu comedy merch. And if you don't live there, there's a reason you don't live there. Good for you for not living there. Not the best city in Ohio. If we're ranking top 10 Ohio cities, I'm not sure that it's cracking the top 10. It just, do you like Toledo? Do you have a Toledo defense?
No, I don't have a Toledo defense. I don't have a Toledo thought. That's why I feel like you're more, when you're going around and you're playing all these clubs, you probably have been to more of them and spent more time in them than maybe I have. I haven't spent a ton of Toledo time.
Yeah, the last time I was in Toledo, it just all felt like a half-closed mall. It felt like I was walking through and just like, oh, this is gone. Spencer's Gifts is still here. That's weird. Okay, whatever. There's a Sbarro. That's big. There's where Macy's used to be. It's just like a lot of nothing in that city. At least from my experience.
Sbarro? By the way, do you know Sbarro has shifted its strategy? Sbarro.
What was it? I didn't know they had a strategy.
Well, they had
malls.
They had the food court. They were the food court people, right? I mean, that was where they lived. That was their stronghold.
They're leaving the food court.
That's
what's the new strategy?
They have shifted. Well, they've shifted away, obviously, as everyone has shifted away from malls. You know where you see them all the time now is in the rest stops. The rest stops, and that's where they're trying to really get themselves back in there. Is in the rest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when you said rest stop, I thought
saw tons of them in rest stops on our trips.
So you're talking more like truck stop than proper rest stop. It's not like there's a little pizza stand,
right? Okay. These prominent stops in the middle of nowhere is kind of where it seems
the toll
like
plazas and stuff like
their strategy. Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about the rest stops that feel like a mall, where there's a little Starbucks and a little convenience shop and then a pizza place. I do think, man, that still doesn't seem like much of a strategy. It's like you found the only place that's a little less appealing than a mall, and you went rest stop. But
I love the idea of an empty Tri-County mall, but just one Sparrow with a flickering light hanging on. Like, just come on in. We're still here making bad pizza. We will not let go.
And they just have a loyal fan base that is just propping up the entire husk of the mall because they can't get away from that pizza. This is what I'm working. This is what I'm going to try on stage. Let me run this by you, I guess. I don't know if I've told you this one before, but I read something that said 98% of married people would rather die first than see their spouse go, right? Because it's harder to watch somebody you love suffer than to suffer yourself. That is why I think childbirth is harder on dads. Like my wife sat there for 12 hours. Yeah, I had to watch it. That's much more difficult. She was in a bed. I was in an uncomfortable chair. She slept most of the time she was in the hospital. I had to walk down 3 flights of stairs to meet an Uber Eats guy. Spotty Wi-Fi. I think that it is harder on dads. We got to watch all that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see someone that you love suffer so much. You're right. This is really something that we should send out to all dads. It'd be good. I think it'd be good on a Mother's Day card. That'd be good on like a Mother's Day card or something like that. I think that's a direction you should try to go. Hallmark people, if you're listening, consider
do you think I lose every woman in the audience with that take?
Yes.
I feel like I think
that's a walkout. I think that's a potential like banding together walkout from all females.
I'm going to run it. We'll see how it goes at Louisville, and I'll report back with how many people I've walked. I don't think they're going to walk. I think they're going to stay to see where it goes, and then I'm going to use the rest of my act to try and win these ladies back. But, it's people said that they would rather die first than watch their loved ones suffer because it's harder to watch that. So if it's harder to watch the suffering, it's harder for me to watch her suffer during childbirth.
Can't have it both ways.
Let's go, dads. Pro dads.
Yes, pro dad. Speaking of dad life time, do you have any dad life from the last couple of weeks we've been away?
I try to feed my kids to sharks. That was on a past episode when we were at the beach. Correct. And what I have learned from that episode is you lose a lot of credibility in the house after that. We were back from the beach, and my wife and daughters thought they smelled a gas leak in the house. I was very quick to say, no, there's no gas leak. You're not smelling gas. It's fine. You guys are okay. My wife took the girls, ran into the backyard, and I was like, no, there's no gas leak. And they're like, oh yeah, is this another shark episode? Is this another there's no sharks in the water thing? So we had to call the energy company, and they had to send the guy out from Duke, and that guy did not look like he wanted to be there at all. Like, he came in to do his job, and then I was like, hey, my wife says there's a gas leak. She's wrong. Can you tell her that she's wrong? And now he's got to settle this marital dispute between the two of us. But I was right. There was no gas leak. Also, thank God, though, right? Like, because if there was, and I'm still like days after saying there's no shark in the water, go out in the water, and there was a shark in the water, then days later, I'm like, there's no gas leak, and there clearly is a gas leak. Now the evidence is starting to mount up, and it's not in my favor. So you're
supposed to get 3 strikes, I feel like, in these situations, but I think if 2 of those are sharks and a gas leak, I think that counts as 3. I think that's probably enough.
A jury would probably agree with you at that point.
We went to Cedar Point on our way up to Michigan this year, which was super fun. It was the first time at Cedar Point for the kids. We've been like, obviously they go to Kings Island. We love the kiddie world at Kings Island, and they're like working their way up. I mean, again, I have a 7 and a 4.5. So like roller coasters, it's like the Beastie has kind of been the high point to this point. And so
quality ride.
Which is great. And Cedar Point's awesome. They actually have 2 kiddie worlds that are similar but different, which is great to kind of spread it out, and you can get a different vibe and feel like you're going someplace new, but still kind of doing a lot of the same stuff. So love the Cedar Point setup. But when we were there, all of a sudden my oldest, who's not really been much of a, like, she's really only goes on rides when my youngest is willing now to go on the ride. She's like, oh, well, she's going to go. Then I have to go, even though she was previously scared of it. It's kind of how we've gotten on her a lot of stuff. All of a sudden was obsessed with, I want to ride the Gemini. And now if you've been to Cedar Point, like, Gemini is kind of like a little race. It's like Racer Plus, maybe a touch plus the Racer if you're a Kings Island person. But it's a
That's
real
nice step
ride.
up. Yeah,
it's a real ride. And she kept saying it, and my wife and I are both like, really? Like, I don't think you do, you know? And we're not saying that because I want to encourage, hey, if you really want to, like, I'm going to encourage you to do it. I'll do it with you. But we're trying to come up with all of these reasons why you wouldn't, in terms of, oh, we got to go do this, and it's getting late, and food, and all these reasons. And she is just adamant. And I'm like, I just want to make sure you know. And I kept saying it. That ride right there, the one, that's the hill. See that hill way up there and see the people screaming on the way down? Like, that's what we're riding. That's what you want to do. Yes, yes, yes. The answer kept being yes. I said, all right, let's go. You know what it is? Life lesson time is what it is. You're about to learn that if you say you want to do something, we're going to do it. Okay. And so we went. I don't really know how to describe the look on my daughter's face when we went down that first hill, surrounded by nothing but teenagers and grown adults on those cars. And the look of complete terror and potentially eyes maybe rolling back into her head, having never experienced anything like a real roller coaster before. But I was just holding on to her. She was holding on to me, and also kind of, I think, maybe going in and out of consciousness. But it was amazing. It came off completely terrified, never doing that again. I was like, good, that's the experience. That's the life lesson you got to learn. You know, say you want to do something, you do it, and then you make the decision afterwards whether you want to do it again. Never make the same mistake twice. But I think we got her. I think we survived it, and that was cute. And there's a picture of absolute fright that exists in our lives now.
Did you spring for the picture? Did you buy that to secure that as evidence? Like, hey, if you remember this time,
she didn't want me to, so I didn't do it. But
at least she waited nice to be scared till like the downside of the hill. I think that's the experience is far worse when the kid gets into the roller coaster and they click in the belt or the bar comes down. That's when they start freaking. You know, like the people that freak out on planes as they're about to take off. And then you've got so much more like upset tears and crying as you're like climbing this slow hill, and it just bums everybody out. At least you wait till afterwards to be terrified. But
she exuded confidence from the entire moment until the second we started cascading down towards the earth.
What's tough with that too is like roller coasters are a weird one because it's like you want them to get past their fears, and usually they like have a blast and they love it. But when it is a step out of their normal age range, you run the risk of going too far and then just getting burned on roller coasters forever. You know, just being like, oh, I hate this, I'm never going back, or whatever. If it's too extreme for them, because some kids are like that. One bad experience, now the whole place is just written off in their heads, and you're never back to Cedar Point.
Yeah, well, maybe not. We will be back. I know that much.
Good.
But we may not be riding the Gemini.
It wasn't that terrifying for
next time. I don't know if that will be one of our rides. All right. So next week, Mark, will be our last episode before we are into training camp. So
I'm excited.
One more in the land of the weird. So if you're listening and you have questions that you want to try to sneak in before we're much more newsy show and a much more Bengal-y show, send them in now. Growler Podcast, the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. And we will do our best to sneak in because we're going to be getting into the training camp world of stuff happening every day and a lot of stuff to get to. So we keep an eye out for that coming soon, but get your questions in if you want to get them in now. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We appreciate it. We will talk to you next week on Dey Light. Special episode of the Growler coming up on Monday. Very, very, very excited about that. The return of something that is going to be that we've done in the past, and then is going to be a new feature on the show that we've already recorded. It went awesome, and I can't wait for people to see it on Monday or listen to it on Monday. So we hope that keep an eye for that. We'll talk to you next time. Have a good one, everybody.